the dream is telling me more than this person ever will about themselves. When you really work with your dreams, like, this is the kind of stuff that you wouldn't even bring up in therapy. So when you're talking about it, it's really going to bring up stuff probably that you would rather not have it bring up. So I think dreams too, they'll tell you things when you need to know them, basically. So that's why there's kind of, I like to call them seasons of dreams. Kind of the role of the unconscious is to balance it out in some way. So the unconscious is making up for what you aren't doing in waking life.
The big hormone Enneagram.
I'm John Malkovich, 415, sexual self-pres, 458 Trifix.
I'm David Gray, self-pres sexual, 9 with 1 wing, 974 Trifix.
What up, it's Emeka. I'm an 8-wing-7, sexual self-pres with 854 fixes.
Hi, I'm Nancy. I'm a 3-wing-4, self-pres social, a 369 Trifix.
Hi, I'm Alexandra. I'm a social self-preservation 9-wing-1, 963 Trifix.
If you like or hate us, make sure you go like and subscribe on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, and make sure you leave us a review.
And back to the point that you were making about practices that people could use to remember their dreams more. I usually don't remember my dreams. So that's why my dreams are usually pretty significant. So because if I did remember it, it's like there's probably something going down. But once we started talking about dreams, I started a dream diary and kept my fucking phone or laptop next to me, and so I could just jot something down as soon as I woke up, and I started remembering like at least 3 a week. Mm-hmm. And if I didn't make the intention that I wanted to write my dream down, I wouldn't remember them. Mm-hmm. So it really came down to you want to do this and you're prepared to do it, and it seems like the floodgates open up.
Yeah, because I mean, like, even when I first started like looking at it from an interpretive lens, and also getting more or two into the archetypal concepts of things, like even just doing that for quite like a couple months, like I still had dreams every night. It's like, okay, you're listening, you're fucking it up, but at least you're listening. Like it's, and I since then, like, again, because of dreams being timeless, like there are dreams that I'll go back to, you know, in like that I had in maybe the 9th grade, and I'm like, wow, I could still learn from this. Like, you know, the symbols in your dreams will constantly change, you know, like they'll constantly have a different angle that you didn't look at. And usually, you know, when you've got it, when something really hits somewhere deep. So that's kind of, I think, why it'll come up in different ways and different forms and throughout your whole life. It's lifelong work, I think. So,
who else wants to share their dream? I can't be the only one.
I have a
naked
dream
on this pod
that I had that's semi-boring and has a recurring theme. Mm-hmm. So, I have a recurring theme of being stuck in places and not being able to leave, which is also one of my biggest fears in life. So that's a fun one to have a dream about. It's very relaxing.
Like just being stuck?
Yeah, like literally not being able to like exit the premise.
So like what do you mean? Like you're stuck in your room or something? Or you're like
stuck in a conversation, or stuck in a situation, stuck in a house, stuck in a plane, just unable to exit. However that goes. And that's like a big anxiety trigger for me. So I have a lot of dreams surrounding that when I'm stressed. So I'm always assuming that that's like just fear coming into my dream. But in this particular one, I always think it's interesting where they're set. I don't know why, but like I always have dreams of my dreams being set in very realistic places, but these scenarios are not realistic. So I always think that's just a big clash in my dreams. I think it's funny. Mm-hmm. But basically I was at a house party with the cast of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. And I really wanted to leave. I was done. I was over it. But I couldn't get myself to leave because I thought I was going to be shot when I walked out the door. So then I kept asking all the cast of the Brooklyn Nine-Nine if they carried weapons, and everyone thought it was weird that I had a gun on me. That was the entire dream. But it was set very specifically in a house that I used to go party at in Richmond, in my old city where I used to live. So that's like a typical dream where I'm in a social setting and I can't leave for some safety issue. And I'm like, oh my God, this is the worst thing ever. I might have to spend the night here. I'm going to die. I'd rather leave and get shot than stay in this house with all these people.
So, and see, that's interesting because, like, one of the biggest, like, I guess, quote unquote, rules with dream work is that it's always going to tell you something you don't already know. So, you know, most people want to wake up, they have a dream that they experience something that they're like, oh, duh, like, of course I'm going to do that, or of course that happened, or whatever. But there would be no point in the dream and that's probably why it recurs, especially reoccurrent dreams thinks that there's something important about this association, you know? So looking at that is kind of like, you would have to come at it from different angles and questions, challenging yourself. So it's like, you know, you think of, you know, what that TV show even represents or means to you. It could be like, I know with guns, especially when you think of guns, it's a very masculine way to quickly get the job done. So it's like, okay, you know, I need this to just bypass feeling something. You know, I don't want to be able to feel this uncomfort. Yeah. Like I don't want to feel this way anymore. And so it could be, you know, like what kind of tension or stress you're feeling in that situation and why is it not being like released anywhere? Like why is it being contained in that way? You know, like so there's tons of, and you'd have to kind of see like where in waking life do you feel that way, because feelings in a dream are kind of like one of the most important things. So even though you might forget that you felt that way 2 days ago, your unconscious didn't. So it's kind of like, okay, well, where's the last time I felt this and why? And was I like stuck in a meeting or was I stuck here? And where is this stuckness coming from within me and what does it want? Like it's kind of its own entity and the ego just wants to keep relating to it in the same way over and over again, but it wants to transform. And that's why the unconscious is trying to challenge you to get yourself to question why this keeps happening. If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. It's interesting.
Yeah. So I could go into more personal questions, but I feel like, you know, that's just a way I'd pose it to people if especially if they'd want it to do it on their own. Like I think dream work can be done on its own, but a lot of the time, especially because you might not be able to see it from an angle that someone else could, it's extremely helpful to ask or to talk about it with other people, especially people who know you really well, because they're like, oh, well, didn't you say this one person, like this one thing about that one character this one time? Because, you know, maybe you're projecting something about it, like you think their traits are going to be what gets you out of this stuckness, you know, like a comedic overtone or something will help you get out of feeling stuck or help ease the comfort or something.
Isn't there something to, maybe you alluded to it before, just the process of writing the dream down and the words that come up and so forth, that is to some degree in some schools of thought an extension of the dream.
Yeah.
Like more can come from that material itself.
Yeah, like I've done it sometimes with really, really tricky dreams where I'm just like, I have no idea what this is trying to tell me. I write it down and just start underlining words, like underlining them, like especially nouns, you know, starting to play with like, okay, why, like what relation does this object have to that object? Or like, why is it that in this part of the dream I feel this way, but once this aspect comes in, I'm feeling this way, you know? So it's breaking down, like every part of the dream is very important, you know, the transition of it, if it even has an ending or not, you know, like this is kind of the arc of it, the setting, like you mentioned, Nancy, the party house or whatever. Like, yeah, it could represent like how you relate to things socially, but also like personally what happened there all the time in real life. Like, why is it getting you to go back to this place. Like I have a lot of people have dreams of like childhood homes. Like, okay, so this means that there's something happening in the psyche that originated in the childhood home or like in your childhood. So there's no really there's no mistake in a dream. There's something about every aspect of it. Like I have a lot of the time when I'm very stressed out, like I'll have dreams that have just no ending and they're just fragment, 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 fragment. And it's just like, I'm not making up my mind on things. Like I'm not feeling, complete or steady or whatever within myself about these kinds of subjects. So it's just never ending. And it just keeps being, well, what's going to happen next sort of thing. So it's every part of it's important.
It's like a list you never get to cross off.
Yeah. Yeah. And too, I completely forgot to even mention compensatory dreams. Oh. Yeah, because they're really big too. I even just had one last night that like I was again, here's another example of kind of trickster sort of energy. Yeah. That like I knew I was kind of nervous for this, but especially as a social type, I didn't realize how terrified I was. And
of this?
Yeah, of just being on a podcast. So like
jump scare.
Yeah, no. And I had this dream last night that woke me up at like 3:00 in the morning with my heart racing because I was like terrified from something. And this morning, like as much as I kind of wanted to just be like, wow, what a shitty dream to like have today, I thought about it and sat with it more. And like the more I focused on the symbols and like the people that were in it and what I've associated with them and stuff like that, the more I realized like how amusing it actually all was. And I'm like, oh, I think that was kind of a compensatory dream. As a 9, you just you hold and push like all of the feelings and store it somewhere in your body. So in your dreams, it's trying to get you to really like get it out in some way. So I have ones where like I wake up violently or I'm, angry and I'm screaming at someone in the dream. It's like I'm constantly storing these things somewhere. So the unconscious is making up for what you aren't doing in waking life. And that can happen an infinite amount of ways.
So I've never heard the term compensatory dream. Are you? I don't understand what you mean.
Compensating.
Oh,
it's an exact opposite experience of what
it's compensating.
Your daily life experience or what you experience that day. For example, you might have something that's a perfect opposite as a way as sort of like a healing compensation or balance.
Yes.
Yeah, because one of the dreams one of my favorite dreams that Kristen interpreted was a family situation, but like that was first half of the dream was this missiles coming in, and the second half was some older person was guiding me through some sort of like drug experience that was really fucking awesome and amazing. And I woke up, and before I woke up, this person said, "Are you okay?" And that was I think your interpretation
was total opposite from everything you've been describing.
Right.
Your whole family experience recently.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Like my unconscious was trying to like,
take care of you.
Take care of me with all this bullshit that's going on.
Yeah.
Right.
That's kind of cute.
Yeah, I had there was quite a long time where I was having nightmares. And, I think it was kind of, especially at the time, there was a lot of like stuff I won't get into, but I think sometimes when we have those dreams that like really scare us awake, it could also be a way of saying like, hey, reality's not like that bad. It's, you're waking up and your heart's racing. It's like, why are you associating with like life like this? It is a balancing thing. The unconscious and especially dream work is kind of just a way to even things out. Tons of people go throughout life without ever interpreting or thinking of their dreams or even remembering them or whatever. But kind of the role of the unconscious is to balance it out in some way. So there are tons of people who have dreams that will compensate for the things they lack in waking life.
I had throughout my life a lot of dreams about fighting or being in some kind of conflict with like an army or guerrilla force, or like it's usually some kind of like quasi-militaristic, like often in a foreign country, but like they're more of they're more like technologically whatever advanced, and it's like very elaborate. And I'm usually kind of in this kind of like me against the whole force kind of thing. And I was listening to our wrap-up pod, just re-listening to it, and we were talking about just how like kind of like, I mean, it's been last year was a good year, but it was a very stressful from the point of view of just the way fucking idiots that just like get fascinated or hooked on us or whatever, and like start trying to like play their fucking games with us. And like I've been really angry about that this past year. Like that thing that began with Joker 9 or whatever. And just like the ways that we've played this like role in fucking idiots' lives and their psyche, and like I've been fucking angry, and so I wonder if that kind of like fighting that those armies or SWAT teams or whatever has been like a social instinct war. Social instinct war or something like that. Because I mean, the other day somebody I was kind of going in on somebody that was like has been using us as a kind of like prop to like keep themselves in conversation for a while, and they like accused me of wanting to be famous, and I was like, because I wrote a book and have a podcast or something. I was just like, oh fuck you, it's just like, no, I want to explore Enneagram, and I want to like change the Enneagram field, but it was just like, that comment brought up a lot of like, I guess made me realize how much anger I have about being this like unwitting psychic prop for people, and like just not fucking wanting that. At the same time, it's like I don't know how to like keep pursuing what I'm interested in without it involving people.
Yeah.
I kind of thought a podcast would be almost like a way to like not involve myself in a certain way, which sounds ridiculous, but it's like
we
it
would
does
just
sound
be friends
ridiculous.
talking.
yeah, just me and my friends talking and having some reason to, and then
Or
people
a
might
social
listen.
blind.
People might listen and like be like, oh, I'll do some sessions with John or not or whatever, or at least like the Enneagram field would like just start to change a little bit. But this, like I was saying on the pod, like we don't have that many listeners or something, but the level of emotional and psychic
investment
is so absurd. I'm feeling angry as I'm talking about it.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and it's interesting. I mean, from a layman point of view that doesn't do a lot of dream work, it's interesting that you think that you dream guerrilla warfare on you, because I always think of them as like hyper specialized and really sneaky and like sneak attacks. And I feel like all the scenarios have been sneak attacks on you,
Right.
or Emika or David.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's
So
always
it's just interesting.
It feels kind of like some random bullshit can come out of anywhere,
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
and I'm not sure
Could just
where
come out of the jungle and you don't know where it's going to be from.
Yeah,
Right, and
yeah, exactly. It's been a lot
also-
of that.
Too with dreams, like that aspect is a part of you though too. So it's kind of it that's where it starts to really suck, especially for social blind and fours or four fixers. You actually have to relate to things. Yeah. No, that like the your unconscious is making this type of thing up but it's coming from within. So there is something or some kind of aspect that is a part of you are fighting against as well. So looking at it in that way, like, what are you projecting onto it to create its own like entity within your head is a way like that really has to humble you in a sense and show that like this is all your own creation, kind of. That's reflective of waking life too.
Yeah, on that thread, I've had in the last few months of dreams, just a lot of dreams around social emergencies or social problems. And I think the conversation about like your unconscious trying to bring these shadow or blind spot aspects to your attention, it's like, as a social blind, we thought doing this podcast wouldn't be a big deal, right? Who would care? And then and it's like, because we're not tracking the importance of the social game and how much of a big deal all this stuff is, it does become this shadow thing of this thing that you're not paying attention to, that you're not giving the importance, but on some level you do care about, and it is important to you. Like on some level as a social blind, it's like I don't necessarily care that much about fame or wanting to get public attention, but it is part of me. Like it does matter to some degree to be respected in social space, and so it becomes this sort of like this is this part of you that you're not giving enough attention in your waking life, even though like underneath somewhere it is important. And a lot of my dreams end up being this sort of scenario where you're blindsided by like the social big deal, and you know what we've been experiencing. It's also like you're not dealing with the emotions of the stuff that we're all the stuff that we've been going through. It's like I've been realizing, I'm really pissed off about some of the social things that have happened. Like I'll get mad, but then I'll just move on. I'll forget about it. I'll put it to the side. But it's still there. I haven't really processed how I feel about being a social object that a bunch of like morons are playing fucking cards with.
Totally.
Yeah, it's your unconscious doesn't have the same patterns that your ego does.
Right.
It's working in a way that is like way beyond your comprehension, kind of. So to have a conversation with it in a way is to kind of break down those barriers, those walls, those patterns, in order to understand like really, you know, what does this thing mean to me, and what kind of is it trying to how is it trying to get me to associate with it and stuff. And I think too, even with dream work, like all of these symbols and oh my god, like shadow stuff in dreams and projections, it's like huge. There's complexes, you know, father complex, mother complex, stuff like that. The you know, animus, how you're projecting onto your partner, and how you're not claiming, you know, the inner other in a way. You're just outsourcing that. Like that's all of this work where when you actually work on it and when you actually sit with it and understand all of these aspects and functions inside yourself, it is just another way to feel more whole, you know? It's putting all the pieces together. And that's what a lot of spiritual work is like some kind of desire to feel more whole. And so dream work is like a hyper personal way to do that, because then it's involving family members and partners and your childhood and all this stuff. So it's very, very ugly. But like, I think that's kind of the point. You have to kind of be, and as a 9 too, it's like I have to just sit in feeling very uncomfortable. I can just understand that. Like I have a lot of tension in my dreams that I have to look at. Like, okay, why am I trying to kind of escape this very large uncomfortable feeling? That's how it is with everyone I talk to with their dreams. There's something in there that they like really don't want to admit or want to investigate or feel, and it's huge with that.
Yeah, I guess doing this pod has made us all really confront the social instinct in a way nothing else I've ever done has.
For sure. So if somebody wanted to work with you on dreams, like what is that like?
For me, like I ask a lot of questions because again, you're working with like personal associations, so I can't put my own bias onto someone's dream. Because everyone has like, you know, their own bias of what they think certain objects or people or whatever mean. So I think it's a lot of questions. Also knowing the context of someone's life, what they're going through or what they went through at the time of the dream is very important. And basically identifying where the emotion really is in it. Like a lot of people I've talked to will sometimes or typically end up in tears, and I will too, even just hearing their dream, because I think even just listening to someone's dream is like, the dream is telling me more than this person ever will about themselves, you know? Like when you really work with your dreams, like this is the kind of stuff that you wouldn't even bring up in therapy, because the ego still tries to filter things in a therapist office or session or whatever.
That's a trickster right there. It's a trick against your conscious self.
Yeah. So when you're talking about it, it's really going to bring up stuff probably that you would rather not have it bring up. But the point is to try and get to those deep emotional sort of wounds and understanding your own projections and shadows and all that fun stuff. So it's really breaking it down. So even like if I write, I have like an offering where I can just communicate by like email. I've written up, explanations or interpretations of your guys' dreams that even in written form, like I'll walk away from it and a day later I'm like, oh wait, no, that it could have said that too. Like, so it's really never take a dream interpretation as the interpretation or the only one, because it could definitely, the idea is just to start thinking about this thing in a very different way. And so at least for me, like I'll try and get and start pulling the thread of where I see the most emotion or where the person is avoiding the most like touchy thing, and that's kind of where I know it's where it probably is at that needs to be worked on.
That's really cool. And one thing I always appreciate about your comments when I post about my dreams is I rarely answer your comments because I just think about them for like days and weeks on. And I just go back and I read it and I'm like, oh, I didn't think about that. So it's this like layered experience that I think it's not, you can't just take it at face value.
Right. And there's so much that you can do with it too. Cause like, instead of, of course you want to think about it and feel and stuff, but you can also kind of play with it in a way. Like I've gone out and done things and bought stuff or whatever that was in my dreams. Like, I have a dream about, drinking a milkshake, go get a fucking milkshake. Like it's just, it's also like it's trying to get you to kind of
participate
in that way, and so there's tons of ways that you can do that, not just sitting and thinking about it. It's a kind of a little fun activity in a way. But yeah, it's definitely a lot of layers, and we have like no time on this planet to really get super into it, but you can start.
How do you
hit up Kristen and get some dream work going?
Yeah.
And Kristen, how do you put up a boundary so that people aren't just hitting you up with dreams left and right?
Would love to know that.
Yeah, do you have ways like I mean, do you offer I'm sure you offer like full kind of one-on-one analyses, but like people want to hit, like I have like 3 different things and I'm like, oh, I want to ask Kristen about this.
Yeah, same.
So how do you do you do you have like, here's a $10, here's a $5 little thing, how do you work that?
I mean, right, I never really thought of getting paid for
think about it.
Yeah,
think about it now.
Well, I
damn nines.
I know I do. I have on my website. I have on my website at least that like I can do an hour Zoom call. That's $60 and a like. Don't give me that face, Nancy. Yeah, it's for right now.
You need to raise that up.
Bitch,
120.
Triple digits. Come on.
And also, it's really important to say this because we were typing people for free on Facebook for a while, and the reason we had to charge is just to avoid all the craziness that comes with people just taking advantage of you offering things for free.
Yep.
Right,
So
and
it puts a boundary, a very important boundary, to have a paywall.
Well, and so I'm kind of still exploring that, which is why I started out kind of low, because of course, I'm just like, no one's going to send me anything.
They will.
They will.
I also have like a written thing, because it doesn't take me very long to write people's dreams out. It doesn't like, consume too much of my time. So I have, for a lower price, you can just get email, interpretation. But I mean, for people that I'm close to, I don't charge them anything for their dreams. Like
Yay!
Well, I'm gonna ask you something, and I'm gonna get your Venmo and just give you $5.
Yeah,
I was gonna say, so we'll just
by
start
donation.
paying you.
Yeah.
Yeah, now
That's
people
fine.
are gonna parasocially creep on you just to get free interpretation.
Yeah,
Gonna be
check
your
our show
friend.
notes for Kristen's PayPal.
Yeah. I have like I take it very seriously, and so there are people who have bugged me with their dreams, and I can tell that they don't really give a shit about the work, and so I just ignore them.
Good.
Like I'll just
good.
straight up
Smart.
because I take it way too seriously, and so it's like it takes energy from me to. I mean, you guys know it. It takes energy from me to actually think about these things and like almost be in your life for to understand it through your lens and stuff. So like when I notice, I can pick up usually right away. At first I didn't, but now I've had practice where it's like I can pick up pretty much right away if someone's going to be serious about it or not.
And do you imagine in the future ever teaching like workshops or retreats that people might learn how to apply this work for themselves or something like that?
Oh yeah, like they're actually, I forgot to mention, even on my website, I have some of those dream cheat sheets that I worked up, and so I think it's on the blog section of my website, you can see some of those. But yeah, especially with what I've been noticing with people's Enneagram types, it's, Jungian stuff has its own map of understanding it. But once you throw Enneagram type on there, it's like, wow, there's a whole other layer to what these dream work and what dreams mean could actually offer. So I'm sort of pulling together and taking field notes of how Enneagram shows up in dreams and how to work with it, especially instincts too, because when you think, I mean, we won't get too into it, but like when you think of animals coming up in dreams, that's like an actual embodiment of some kind of instinct. And then how is that relating to your own and whatever? So I'll probably put together something where I is more comprehensible to people.
I mean, that might be cool in the future to have you on to talk specifically about instinct and dreams.
That would be so cool.
As a focused topic, because I mean, I'm just thinking about that, and it seems like it'd be pretty interesting.
Right.
You
And
should have her as a guest teacher in your school, John.
That's what I was thinking about.
John's like, damn it, you ruined that.
I was. It's a surprise. Even just like the flavor of people's dreams, like Emika's, like your dreams are so rejection. It's ridiculous. Like. And social blind dreams are just like a totally different flavor, like it. So even just looking at that, and it's just like, okay, why is your unconscious like picking it up in this way and presenting it to you in this way and stuff? Like it's really crazy. Like it just trying to track that, which is why part of like talking to people about their dreams is just thrilling to me, because it's like, wow, like you have your own little world that like your personality has flavored this part of your unconscious and the way that you associate with things, and it's creating this like, entirely new or different way of associating. So
maybe we can come up with a typing method with a dream typing method.
Yeah, just tell me your dream and I'll tell you your type.
Dream new collage.
Yeah, the dream exercise.
Yeah, I mean, like I was even thinking it would be cool to get each type or instinct stacking or whatever to like looking at that dream compared to someone that's this type, and like that kind of like I'm saying, the flavors and the dynamics going on in it are very different.
Yeah, the thing about the collages is like sometimes you watch someone's video and what they're willing to say, you'll get one thing, and then you look at their collage, which is impressionistic, and you'll look like that's a different person. There's a lot. There's a lot going on that you can't communicate with words that
Closer
I can see
to the
through.
dream world.
Right,
Collages.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, there are some people posting like their dream collage. Like I've seen them, like this is the vibe of my dreams.
Right,
and those are so interesting.
Right. My roommate thought of doing that. She said like, oh, what if you did that? And I was like, oh my God, I want to see other people's, because I'm terrible at making collages, but other people's, when they started posting them, I was like, oh, this is such a good idea, because that's another way to play with it. Like I made one for mine and realized like, oh wow, there's like a lot of feminine imagery in here, that I did not recognize before, or I wouldn't have caught before, or like this is like way more enclosed and kind of like isolating feeling, that kind of, it's like kicking up a feeling when you do a collage of a dream, or the dream imagery and symbols and stuff that you probably wouldn't have thought of.
There's a dream that I was wanting to get into of mine. It's a very old one, but I'm thinking we're maybe
way over on
have a-
time.
yeah.
We should do a part 2. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I would love a part 2
more
of
to
this.
talk about.
Yeah,
Yeah.
honestly, I was even, of course, I was too nervous to suggest it, but like this is such a big topic, which is why you could go into like so many different avenues
Yeah.
with it,
Right.
and
Yeah.
even like actually like interpreting a dream,
Right.
and understanding what that symbol means could help people with
Yeah.
interpreting their own.
No,
And we can
it'd be interesting to me because also, well, this is probably the most powerful dream I ever had, and it's from about almost 30 years ago. And to me, it would be interesting to have you work with it, in this context.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, I
we
would
can
love to.
each come with like it would give us a longer time to write down dreams and find one that we feel safe sharing.
Yeah, yeah.
And I thought I felt safe sharing one, and then I ended up having to go to the bathroom at work a few times because I was crying.
Oh,
Yeah, not in like a bad way, but in just like a really read down to the core kind of thing. And I've
Yeah.
been noticing since then, I don't write all of them down. Sometimes I'm just like too tired, and then I just do that arrogant thing of like, I'll remember, and then I don't remember.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Same.
I've done that. Yeah.
Same.
Yep.
I literally did
But-
that this morning.
Yeah. But I have noticed that like women have been so common in my dreams. Like I had one recently, I'm a woman, obviously. There was one where I was a pageant
are?
contestant where like a ton of other women were there. There was one where it involved my mother's house. There's like quote unquote the other woman is also pretty common.
Oh.
It's just been a lot of like feminine. That's kind of my interpretation. A lot of like mother complex feminine stuff is kind of what you suggested once. And I've been
Yeah.
noticing I don't feel like I used to have dreams like that at all. It was all I feel like my old dreams used to be what I would describe as like nonsensical. Like I'm like sitting on a path in the middle of space, like that kind of weird shit. And now suddenly they're all very like tangible, realistic kind of stuff. Of course, I'm like killing someone in some of them. So maybe
Right.
that's
Yeah.
That's
Kinda weird.
realistic.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
this
you were
is
talking
where
about compensatory dreams.
she has a body in her backyard.
You were nice
Yeah.
all day, and then you had a dream about killing
yeah,
someone.
yeah.
It's always the people you don't suspect.
Always nuns.
Yeah, well, and that's why like even when you bring up like a lot of women in your dreams and stuff, like so I think dreams too, they'll tell you things when you need to know them, basically. So that's why there's kind of, I like to call them seasons of dreams.
Oh,
like I'll
okay.
have seasons where they'll be just like, there are like snakes in every dream, and then it'll switch to something else. And so it's kind of like going with what you're processing too at that time. And especially with like feminine masculine stuff, like you're starting to get at the complexes and the shadows and and breaking those down in order for you to really own your own feminine energy and your own masculine energy. Like that's the point of them being represented in that way, is so that you get to they're challenging you, and then you can break it down and form your own. So like even just watching how that evolves, like a lot of women will start out having dreams of very violent men, because we have a very terrible association with masculine in this society. Then
But
it'll
also,
start
it's not
to shift.
integrated as part of what that means, right?
Yeah. Anything like violent and shadowy and faceless, like it's something that's just way too foreign to the ego that it
Right.
just doesn't get it. So that, symbol will start to transform, and it turns out that guy that was running at you with a knife in your dream 2 nights ago is now your father. Like it's
interesting.
it's trying to get you to really question what those symbols are, how they're operating inside of you,
Yeah,
and
Now
where
I
they
understand
need to
that-
go.
Now
It's
I understand
interesting
why
that-
I was beating up old bitches in my dream.
Yeah.
It's interesting that women have been like dominating my dreams lately. I think I haven't been able to capture too many, but I have like maybe 7 or 8 that I've written down. And I know that after we met at the Zone, the first one that I ever wrote down was just, I think I described it to you guys. Maybe I didn't. I think I posted it in the group though, where it was just literally the dark, like the darkness, just total black dark, and a male voice and me being grabbed by the shoulders. And literally that was it. And
Yeah.
then since then, it's been just women domination. What is that?
Yeah.
That sounds awesome.
Yeah, like when my social blind roommate started, like we kind of started doing dream work together. It's really good to have someone that, you know, really knows you and you can kind of work on them together too, because like I said, they'll catch maybe an angle you didn't see. When she kind of first started doing it, her dreams were filled with like faceless people. Like it was just like you're not even allowing yourself to relate to something to project on it.
Right.
Wow, yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, which I've noticed in other social blinds
Yep.
that I've spoken to, that it's like, you know, this is like you know, social in general, and a person's personhood is just a monster to you.
Mhm.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, but it's crazy because then once she started realizing that and working with that, like, oh, okay, now there's your mom and there's me and there's now I'm represented by the social instinct and stuff like that. Like, it's
Wow.
yeah. So it changes in that way.
Yeah, I've been the last month or so. I've been recognizing or catching myself like just fixating on aspects of people. So like people don't get to be fully formed people, and you might think you like someone, but it's like, no, you just like this part of them. When you actually look at the
Right.
full person, you don't like them.
Mm-hmm.
And just
Yeah.
like realizing how much I'm doing that all the time, how much I'm just looking at fractional versions of people and deciding
Exactly.
that I just like that part. And so in my dreams, I don't know who the people are. So when I know the people in the dream, it's like a very social dream and it's really uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and as you know, triple attachment too, I've had lots of dreams with people where it's like, oh wow, I did not allow myself to admit that I have that quality in myself somewhere, you know.
Yeah.
So it's yeah, like there's something about them that really either bugged me or I admired or whatever, and it's like, oh wait, you know, I do that too. That's why they're in there.
Yeah.
Alexandra, do you have one?
Well, I mean, not a dream in particular, but I guess just commentary, like that thing of like I'm projecting certain aspects of like femininity, like I can't even think of a quality right now, but like I don't like with sexual instinct, like sexual forwardness or something like that, or like sexual kind of like vitality or like a voraciousness or something like that. The idea that I could be projecting that onto somebody else in the dream, which is really a call to action to embrace it in myself, has been a weird. It's like I know that, but I think as a triple attachment, it's been a weird, like, I don't want to be located almost to myself even, because that interrupts the mechanism of attachment. So even that's been a, I don't know, kind of wild thing to
Right.
acknowledge.
And the question of like, what do I do about that? You
Yeah.
know? And that's where like other places in the dream could be telling you, like, okay, well, maybe if you looked at this part of the dream, it's kind of giving you a direction of where to go with this idea.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you might need to work on integrating that sexual instinct with your partner.
Might, just a little bit.
Whereas my dream
Fine.
is all about sex. I mean, the whole thing. So,
I was going to say,
But
what if your
that's a
dream's about
compensatory.
murdering someone?
Compensatory dream.
It's either right, yeah.
Yeah.
Kristen, how
David's
much for
actually
murder?
David's actually sexless. That's why he has
Yeah.
so many sex dreams.
There-
Right.
All right, let's get the hell out of
Sure.
Alrighty, guys.
Well,
that
this
was
was-
fun.
But yeah, this
Yeah,
was,
it was very
super
fun.
cool. I am so excited for part 2 and part like 67.
Yeah, I was
Yes,
gonna say,
please and thank you.
I also kind of like the idea of somebody kind of playfully coming up to Kristen being like, hey, interpret my dream.
Right.
And then she like interprets the fuck out of it. And
Yeah.
you're like, oh my
Oh,
God,
yeah.
okay, bye. Sorry.
People,
Right.
Yeah, people get kind of like upset when I interpret their dreams, and they think that it was just going to be something fun or funny.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you have daddy issues, and
Yeah, that's why I say like just be careful with like who you tell your dreams to and who you work on with it.
Sure.
Because you just never know. Like,
I just don't think people are going to do that. I think a lot of people are. I underestimate how freaked out the average person is about revealing themselves in this kind of way. Like my sister is definitely. She was like, I'm definitely not ever doing that, because it's what I mean. It is really personally revealing. So I really don't think that you're going to get like a fuck ton of people that are going to be signing up to do this.
Yeah, sometimes people just avoid it. Like I had people that would tell me their dreams, and then they just like after a while stopped
Yeah.
because they realized like, oh,
She's a
wait,
witch.
This is harder than therapy because it's hitting
It is.
home.
It really, yeah, it definitely is. Well, it's what I'm gonna do.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
It's your witch
I've reached
powers.
my wall. Thank you, Kristen.
Yeah, this
thank
is
you
very
so
cool.
much.
Very excited to have you back on in the future. And thanks for representing Bermuda all over again.
Yeah, we appreciate it. Keep
I'll take
being
it
the
over.
coolest Bermuda.
Thank you. Thank
All
you.
right.
All right, guys.
Everybody.
Hey, we'll see you guys
Bye.
later.
Bye.
Bye.
Come over, we could fuck the void out of each other. I'm now ecstatic! And the sways and the sparks are gonna anaphylactic. Dilated, profligated, filling down, so now I'm stitching and weaving. Sewn up with so it seems then. Let me swing, a head spin, I feel flushed. And rushing, and when you please come crushing, I will gladly lick the sole of your boot. Like a soul, like I'm too old to be mute.